Hey guys, Gene Molina here from Natural Tennis Solutions. Glad to see you guys are back. So let's talk about a progression to our core timing video. I see that video has gone through some popularity, and I'm guessing that people are embracing the fact that they can stretch muscles to get something to actually happen with effortlessness and power. So now that we realize that muscularity is not the important thing, what I want to see is if you guys can understand about a little bit of momentum using the legs a little bit more. This can go a few different ways. So what I want to show is called the pivot. The legs will actually pivot when we swing through this. The way I want to describe it is as the upper body rotates to wind up, we're winding up the body. So if I'm setting up and I'm winding up from the upper body, so the upper body rotated first and wound up, then everything kind of sinks into the legs. So I wind up from the top, I wind it up from the top and sink, and now from here everything will unwind from the bottom up to finish the swing. So what should happen with the legs, and I'm going to show you a couple different stances here. By the way, leg work, don't think about stances, just do what naturally happens. As long as the rotation is happening, that's what should be important. So if I set up with more of an open stance, I rotate and pivot. So now this leg pivoted, it came around because of the fact that my upper body wound up and unwound. So I wind up the legs, wind up the upper body, I unwind, and since my upper body is unwinding out this way, it pivots my foot. This is what should naturally start to happen. My foot should pivot if I unwind the right way. Now, it wouldn't unwind if I wind up and then just swing this much and I don't unwind my upper body. If I unwind the upper body, then that is what should happen. The foot should pivot. This is what you'll see on some video of most of the pros when they're hitting their open stance and they've done the complete swing, their foot will pivot around. If I'm in more of a semi-open or, I guess the semi-open, as I go rotating through, I should still get the same result. It should still pivot around. It might even get to the point where it will pivot around and come off the ground. And then lastly would be more neutral stance. Closed stance doesn't really exist anymore. I don't know if anybody really uses that. But definitely more of a neutral stance. If you go in closed stance, that's fine. But in closed stance, you will still get the rotation and you will actually rotate around even more. Neutral stance, same thing, rotate and pivot and come around. If you've noticed, when I pivot, I'm coming around and my feet are ending up square this way. So that way I'm facing the net. I'm actually in a position to recover and come back to where I need to go. If you end up in a position where you rotate and you go, say, 180 degrees, so let's call this pivot 90-degree pivot. Let's call this pivot 180, where I actually came around this much. If you go around 180, that means you really pivoted around fast and you wanted to get some speed. So that speed actually is beneficial if you really wanted to get more speed. As far as the way I like for you guys to get the idea of what this feels like without just doing the short version is called the 360 pivot. So here, this is a test of your balance and coordination. If you're falling over doing this, I apologize, but it's actually your fault. You should be, doing this without falling over. So here's what I'm going to show you. I set up in a neutral stance, I rotate, and I came around all the way around. I didn't fall, thank goodness. But that is the 360 rotation. You are going to do that while an incoming ball is coming. So you can actually hit a ball and do that. And the shot should still go pretty well. All right, let's hope I do this one on the first take. Let's see what happens. Here, rotate, bam, perfect shot. The rotation really should just make you feel what rotational momentum is like. If you've never used your body to pivot around and get some of that rotational force, this 360 rotation should get you to feel what it's like. You can actually do it on the backhand side as well. You'd rotate and go all the way around. But here I showed you the 90. Here is the 180. And all right, wish me luck. I'm not a two-handed player. I usually hit with one hand. But let's see what happens here. And, oh, all right, the 360 worked. It's pivoting on one foot. I'm actually getting nice feel. Sometimes I call this the ballerina. But it's just about knowing how to get this rotation. So the pivot, the pivot, the pivot. We have the core rotation. We have the pivot. That is the next step from the core rotation. So pivot and rotation. Pivot and rotation, or rotation and pivot if we go in that route. All right. So hopefully you guys can give me some feedback. Let me know. Like, subscribe, again, dialogue. Let me know what you guys think. If you get some really good results with this, some people might be able to just do the pivot and not the rotation. Some people might be able to do the rotation, not the pivot. Some people will be able to put it all together. Just experiment. This is all about experimentation. I've experimented with this stuff a lot as well. Good luck.